the amount of work that you get at home elevates every time you have another child. You get better at it, your systems get better, but the amount of work that actually comes on, the workload goes up. But if you have good systems, you can kind of keep your life in some sort of stasis, even if you have 6 kids.
You're listening to The Motherhood Experience, a podcast where you are part of the conversation with moms, for moms, and by moms. Let's jump into this episode with me, your host, Val Kleppen. When you think about women who do it all, who comes to mind? What are they doing? What are they doing that you wish you could do? This week's guest, Aimee Rickabus, wrote the book, The Manage Her, but she embodies a spirit of accomplishment, not just in the business world, as she owns multiple businesses and is an inherently successful entrepreneur, but it was when she realized that the systems that she was operating under in these businesses were the same principles and systems that she used to manage her home. Ladies, if you run a home, and if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you do, you have so many skill sets and abilities and talents directly at your fingertips. This conversation with Aimee was so rich. We covered so much, but also there was so much that we did not cover in this episode. So I would encourage you to check the show notes, find her book, her website, her podcast as well, The Manage Her. This is one that's going to encourage and inspire you, but it may also challenge you to believe in yourself and believe that you are capable and you have what it takes to manage your household successfully. But also outside of that, maybe to manage a business, to manage 6 businesses, to manage 6 businesses and homeschool your kids. What, Val? That's crazy talk. No, that is the life of this week's guest, Aimee Rickabus. I'm so excited for you to learn from her and to potentially be challenged by her, but also encouraged and inspired by her. So let's head to this conversation with Aimee right now. Welcome, and I am so pleased to have Aimee Rickabus joining us on the Motherhood Experience podcast. Aimee, welcome to the show.
It's so nice to meet you, Val. This is so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dig into your motherhood story and all of the things that you can share with our moms. So why don't we start with ages of kids and stage of motherhood you're in?
Okay, so there's 6 of them all together. Okay, hang in there. All right, so 5 I gave birth to, and 1 I inherited when her mother passed away when she was 13. So the oldest one is my inherited one. She's 27. Then I have my firstborn son, he is 16. I've got one that's about to turn 14, another boy. I have one that is 11. I have a daughter that is 4, almost 5, and I have a son that's 3.
You have the entire age range.
I
That's
do. Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, no, it's like, if you're tired of being with a toddler, you can go hang out with like a 20-year-old. If you're tired of being with a 20-year-old, you can go hang out with a teenager. I don't know why you do that. No, they're actually pretty
Yeah.
fun. Um, but yeah, we do all the things, no matter what you want to play, there's someone who wants to play it with you. So,
Oh, wow. Did
yeah.
you always envision yourself as having a big family?
So when I was very little, I didn't want kids at all. When I was like 5 or 6, I thought I wouldn't have children actually.
Really?
Um, yeah, and then I grew up a little bit and a Mormon family moved in 2 doors down from us and they had 8 kids. And the youngest one is my friend Momi, and her mom and her dad especially, just made it look like it was so much fun to have a big family. And I've just been part of their extended family since I was about 10 years old. And I think that's how I got into the whole big family thing.
Oh, wow. I don't, you might be the first guest, Aimee, to say when they were a kid that they didn't want children. Like usually as, teenagers and not wanting to babysit other kids, like that's the thing. But that's so fascinating to me to go from such a young age to, you know what? This looks really cool, actually.
I know. I think that I've always been kind of a cautious little observer. And I think maybe when I was little, I had a younger brother, my baby brother, Paul. He's 2.5 years younger. And I wasn't loving the experience of having a baby when I was 2.5, 3, 4, 5 years old. I was like, this is not fun.
Yeah, yeah. She loves you, Paul.
I do. I love him so much. I love him so much that I named my youngest son after him. My youngest baby, my 3 year
Oh,
old, his name is Paul, and he's named after my baby brother. Because,
that is sweet.
yeah, I would yell at, anytime I'd yell for a kid, I'd always call them Paul first. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to name one Paul so that I'll be right every once in a while.
Isn't that such a motherhood stigma where when you want the name recall for the person who is in trouble or needed or needs to be addressed
Yeah.
at that moment, it's every other name but theirs.
I don't know what it is. I can never find the right name. I'm like, you know who you are.
Yes. Yes, front and center now, please.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So when you started a family, were you on a career path? Were you just trying to find your place? What was that stage of your life like?
So I had my first son was is the 16-year-old. He was the first one that I added to my family, and I had already established myself as a real estate professional at that time, and I was kind of not working that hard. My real estate portfolio kind of was built at that point in my life, and had to try really hard for him. I got married at 25 and then couldn't get pregnant with him. And finally got pregnant with him at 29 and gave birth to him when I was 30. So I was in I guess, a pretty good place career wise. And like financially, I was okay, except that the recession hit in 2008 and he was born in
Mm,
2009 and I was in real estate. So there was a lot of
mm,
pivoting to do. If you read, in my book, I talk about a time in my life where, I'm pregnant with Julian and my house is going to go to auction the month that he is due to be born. And I'm like, whew, okay, what do you do? So I was very lucky because I was living in one of my multifamily apartment buildings, and it actually had two separate buildings. And I was laying in prayer and meditation, and I just had this idea that there was some partner out there that I could bring into the property. So I put an ad on Craigslist for a partner to come in and buy out half of that property. And he did. He did. I found a partner. He's an amazing human being. He and his wife and his children would come down and visit. And basically, they used the main house on the property as a vacation rental. And it saved us from getting our house sold at an auction. So,
wow.
yeah.
So what was it like being a first-time mother in that and still kind of reeling through the economic recovery and reeling through hormonal and physical delivery recovery? What was that like?
It was in such an intense time in my life. I don't think I was so prepared for birth, and then I don't think I was as prepared for the time after birth when you're recovering from giving birth, the pain of, the
Mm,
healing process and how, you basically when you give birth, I don't know if you know this, but there's a wound the size of a dinner plate inside of your body. You can't see it, but that's where the placenta was attached. And so there's just, giving yourself the time to heal from that. And I really didn't have that much support. It was in my first marriage, and that husband was not that supportive. It was a very hard
mm,
time in my life for me. And becoming a mom was hard. The first
yeah.
kid was, I remember looking at my sister in law going, why did you tell me to do this? This is not fun. Like, I was so exhausted. I wasn't very good at it yet.
So the maternal instinct took a while to grow into for you?
Well, I mean, I home birthed
Oh,
this
wow.
kiddo. So I mean, I feel like I bonded well with him, but I
Mhm.
didn't have the chops that I have now. I was like, I remember the first time I had to like change a diaper and the first time I had to breastfeed and just being so out of my element, not feeling super confident as you are when you're a beginner, when you're new at
Mm,
something.
Mhm.
just it's so scary, honestly, and you just feel like there's so much responsibility, to do everything right, especially the first time around. So,
Yeah.
that's where my head was at with that.
Well, the fact that you had your head on at all in that,
Barely.
because that's a lot to deal with also. So tell me kind of the timeline then of, so you have from 16 to 3, you inherited another child. I
Yeah,
would love to hear that story. You got divorced and remarried in here
I did.
somewhere. Like, I
I
feel like
did.
you have a lot to share with us.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I had Julian the marriage, the remainder of that marriage. We had married when I was 25. We lasted post baby 14 months. And
Mm,
then that marriage was over. It just got to a point where I realized that I didn't want to raise a son in a household with that kind of culture.
mm,
There was just that, it was, I didn't want my son to think that it's okay to be like that with his wife. And so I left. And actually, like 3 months later, I was the same property. I had a vacancy. I had a woman who had been relocated for work. And so I put an ad up on Craigslist for her apartment to rent out. And a very old friend of mine actually called on the ad, not knowing it was me. And I was, Brendan Rickabus, my husband now. And I was like, "Do you want to see the place?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So I came down. I was living up in LA at the time. So I came down, I showed him the place. And I'm like, "Do you like the place?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, do you want to go to dinner?" And he's like, "Yeah." And it was on. I really felt like God kind of just hooked us up, because I didn't want to be a single mom. I really wanted to have more children. I wanted to have a big family, and I'm not. I wanted to be a partner in a partnership. I didn't want to be alone. And I've known him since I was 14 years old, and I hadn't seen him in a decade. But we just, it just was, the timing is everything. It was
mm,
perfect timing for him. It was perfect timing for me. So we then got pregnant with Gabriel pretty right away, actually. Gabriel was born, he's 2.5 years younger than Julian. So Gabriel was born in November of 2011. We got married in December of 2011. And then in 2013, we were pregnant with our next son, he was born in 14. But while we were pregnant with him, Hannah's mother passed away, and that's Brendan's oldest, his only other child. And so we ended up that year I was so sad because I was pregnant with, not sad, I really wanted a little girl,
yeah.
and I found out I was going to have my third boy in a row. But God basically gave me a boy and a girl. I ended up with a daughter and a son that year in 2014. And then, like 6 years later, I'm standing in the kitchen and I could just feel this little girl standing next to me. And I was like, "Oh, babe, can we please try to have another baby? Like, I want to have a little girl. I can feel her." And he was like, "Sure." And so we tried for about 6 months to get pregnant with her, and we did. And it was a girl. And so she was born in November of 2020. And she is such a doll. She's my doll baby for sure. And then she couldn't be alone,
Of
because
course not.
everybody has siblings. And I didn't want her to be the only girl in the house and so much younger than the boys and be alone. So we got pregnant right away. And 22 months later, we had her baby brother.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have 3 sets of kids,
Yes. That's
and
exactly what it feels like too.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like
And so
batches.
had you bonded with, I forgot the oldest,
Hannah.
Hannah. Had you bonded with her at all prior to her mother passing away?
No, I hadn't at all. I didn't really know her at all prior to that time. And it was like the moment I met her, I was smitten. She looks just like my husband. She looks just like his children, who are my children.
Mm,
So she
mhm,
just looks like my kid. And
mhm.
I think, I just right away was like, "Oh, I just know, like, her mom was probably the angel that hooked me and Brendan up."
Wow.
Yeah. I
Oh,
really always
wow.
thought like that was part of our story. So, no, I love that girl so much. She's amazing.
That's incredible. And so she kind of took on an older sister role to all of your kids?
Yeah, she's just a sweetheart. We just had her. She actually has 2 kids now.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm a Grammy.
Wow.
Um, I've got a 7-year-old grandson and a 3-year-old grandson, and they just moved back to Texas um, in May. And it's been so hard. It's been so weird without them because the grandkids are
Oh,
the same age as my little kids, the youngest
right.
batch. And so they really like played together all the time. And so they miss each other tremendously. And then I just miss having Hannah because she's otherwise it's kind of a boy house. Like I live in a
Mm,
boy house. And it was so nice to have Hannah in my life because it was nice to have somebody to go shopping with and somebody to, like she was always styling me. And, just it's just having a daughter is so different. It's
yeah,
such a gift.
yeah.
So I miss her
And
a lot.
so what I have 2 questions here. I'll ask them both. You just go whichever way you want to go with them.
Yeah.
But the first is like, is it strange to have children and also grandchildren the same age? And then with your kids' schedule and Hannah kind of gone and moved away, with your kids' schedule, I don't know about their extracurriculars or evening activities or anything like that, but is your life total chaos right now?
So having kids and grandkids the same age is actually so much fun. It's awesome. Like to go to the park, it's so much fun, but I love more kids, obviously,
Mm,
because I have a big
mhm.
family. So for me, the more kids you have, the easier it usually is because they really entertain each other.
Yeah.
The only funny thing is I look young, I
Yeah.
am kind of young to be a grandma. And at the park, when Jordan yells out, "Grandma, grandma," people would look at me and be like, what? Because then Indy's like, "Mommy, mommy." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna confuse everybody at the park." That's what's happening right now. And as far as like chaos and activities, we have 3 in baseball right now. My husband actually handles all the older boys' sports. That sort of
Mm,
I've delegated that world to him. It was kind of when we got together, it was like, if you handle them when they're little, I'll take care of them when they get to like the sporting age. I'll take care of all that stuff. And he really has. Like he coaches baseball and he's on the board for the youth baseball league and the whole deal. So he's throws himself into all of that wholeheartedly. And the kids are so busy with coaches and batting coaches and pitching coaches and practices. And I have one kid, my 13-year-old, who's playing on 2 teams right now. So he's travel ball and community baseball. And so it's like a lot. It's a lot.
yeah.
But he kind of handles that. And then I can handle the little ones. Um, 'Cause, having little kids is a whole nother ball game. It's just a
Right.
it's it's another kind of busy.
Right. And so do you involve your kids in your work at all?
I
Are they
mean,
a
a
part
little
of it or
bit.
at least
Indy is so cute. She's loves my podcast. She's kind of obsessed with it. And so every time every day, she's like, "Are you shooting your podcast today?" And I'm like, if I am, she'll be like, "Who you having on?" So last week I had Spring Eatman on, and she's kind of a financial, wizard for women. And
Mm,
I told Indy, we're going to talk about money and, she wants to teach women about money. And she said, "Will you ask her to write a book for me?" And I did. I asked Spring if she wanted to write a children's book about money while she was on my show. And she's like, "Yeah, I totally do." So I do love to get the kids involved. I think, my older kids have worked in the warehouse at the IT company. We have 2 IT companies. One of them, we do quite a bit of shipping, and the boys are always like, "Can we pick up extra hours? Can we work in the warehouse?" So that's like the 13-year-old and the 16-year-old are into that. But I think I'd love to get the boys more involved with maybe with like some online sales. I like them to see what we do and how we do it. We're
right.
constantly out with clients and that kind of thing. And the kids have always been with us doing that. So they're really good with grown-ups. and they understand how to behave because we're working,
Mm.
we're at fancy places, we'll be at dinners, we'll go to fancy hotels, taking clients, whining and dining, and they've grown up doing that with us.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible. And you've kind of diversified since the real estate days as far as business. So tell me about that journey too.
Yeah, so I got kind of out of the real estate game. By 2011, I was pretty burnt out on real estate, honestly. And I had the opportunity to just sell the property to my partner who had come along. And I just needed a break. I was really, really, really tired. And I had about I don't know, about 5 months later, we got funded to do Bliss Nutritional Sciences, which was Mamalicious, which was a prenatal protein powder, the world's first prenatal protein powder. So that got funded the month that Gabriel was born in 2011. So November of 2011, that company got funded. So I went on a whole nother venture of a consumable product, a SKU. How do you take something like that to market? It was a whole nother like learning curve, but adventure for me to go on. Everything from designing the packaging to designing the product, flavor design, and then the whole learning social media thing too. That time social media was just coming along. So I think, back in those days I was a bit of a maven. I had like 3,000 followers, which was like so much back in
Yeah,
2011. Yeah, and
basically viral from the start.
basically back in those days. And yeah, so I evolved, and then I have had a film company, started a film company in 2010, a film and television production company, because I also went to film school. So I've done a little bit of that. Even when I was doing real estate, I was doing a little bit of that on and off. And so I have that, and that's the company that I run the book and the podcast through. Dream Life Media is my media company. And then Brendan and I started Mohawk in 20, I think technically it was 2013. I think it was January of 2013 that we started Mohawk. And then we started Tomahawk in 2014. And now our companies are all grown up just like our kids.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was kind of going to ask that because at the same time that you are birthing and raising your own family, all of these businesses are coming to light. And I'm going to assume that you're receiving purpose and fulfillment from both. How do you decide, or is it decided for you maybe by whatever is happening at the time, where to spend your time, how to prioritize without having breakdowns, or are there still breakdowns?
I think as I've gotten older, I'd say in my 20s, I worked too hard.
Mm,
And then in my 30s, my husband has always been really good about not letting me overwork myself. So it's like he's the kind of guy that we don't sit at the dinner table and talk business. He's like, no, we're done working for the day. Like, let's put it away. And I think that kind of saved me because I have a tendency to be a bit of a workaholic, but he doesn't tolerate that. So I think that that's been very healthy for me, and that probably saved me from my breakdowns,
mm,
and also allowed us to prioritize our evening time for family time and really create good structure within the household of
yeah,
how we lay our days out with boundaries around work.
yeah. And so, what is your favorite part then about pouring into other women, pouring into other moms? How do you do that in a way that fills your cup as you're pouring out?
Oh man. So, in 2024, I started writing The Manager, my book, and it just kind of poured out of me. And I felt like it was just this love letter to women in general, to mothers in general. And it was it just, I realized at that time I had been running Tomahawk and I had this house full of kids and babies. And I realized the systems, the capital, and the people that I manage in my household is just like the systems, the capital, and the people I manage in the office. And I went, why are we not calling this invisible labor, leadership? Because the invisible labor that we do in our households is leadership. The management and organizational skills that we as women pull off like Santa on a daily basis, the magic, the fairy dust, how we bring the culture, how we bring magic. I mean, think of what we do for Christmas, and we give all of the credit to a magical elf. It's kind of not fair.
What What was it that was the realization moment? Was it something that you were doing? Was it repeated patterns over time that you saw the connection?
Yeah, I think that it was I honestly think when I first started writing the book, I think I was taking a class, and it was a class that was offered through who was it? I think it was SoCal Edison offered a class on business, and it was about scaling up your business. And I'm taking this class, and this lady's talking about all of the principles of business and how to scale up and people, systems, and capital, and all of this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, this is exactly what we do at home. Like what she's teaching these men to do is what we've been doing our whole marriage since we had kids, because it's the amount of work that you get at home, as you know, elevates every time you have another child. You get better at it, your systems get better, but the amount of work that actually comes on, the workload goes up. But if you have good systems, you can kind of keep your life in some sort of stasis, even if you have 6 kids. You
Hey, it's me jumping in here to say I hope that you have already hopped over to check out Aimee and the Manage Her Empire she is building. Also, if you're enjoying this episode and my conversation with Aimee, please share it with a friend, someone who you know would relate to Aimee's story, or someone who would be encouraged by it. I appreciate you sharing the episodes in the motherhood experience. And now we'll get back to my conversation with guest Aimee Rickabus.
you can, if you have the systems and you're good at managing the people, you know, then you're going to be able to kind of keep your head on straight. But you got to have boundaries, you've got to have systems, you've got to have really good communication skills and EQ with your people being like the kids in your house. If your kid is a double digit number, they can make their bed, they can wash their dish, they can take the trash out, they can help with the dogs, you know what I mean? And so a lot of it is like we have to manage ourselves and then the people around us, right? But it's kind of our job as the mama to make sure that the people in the house are going to help us get, you know, they're almost in a way if your employees do. Otherwise, you end up the only employee in your household. And you don't want to be the only employee in your household. You know, you have to do the upper level thinking in your household. You need to have the time and the mind share to be able to do the upper level management of the household. So it's really nice if you can implement some of these responsibilities and delegate to your kids, to your husband, to whoever else you have in your house, whether your mama wants if your mom wants to help or your dad wants to help. I take help. I think help is great. So my
Yeah.
mother and father-in-law are very involved too. And if they want to jump in and do something, I'm like, yes. You want to make dinner for me tonight? Yes, thank you. I will take that. I will accept that. But that's a big one. You know, learning to manage the people and the systems is a big, and having boundaries around things too. I've really been working on my teenagers. The new rule is if you don't make your bed, you don't clean your room. Don't ask me for anything. Don't ask me
Mm,
for money to go buy bait. Don't ask me for some money to buy some Robux in a game. You know, if your bed is made, then you can ask me, and I might say yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of want to park on the systems thing a little bit because
yeah,
I know there are moms listening who are thinking, well, that all sounds great, but they don't know where to start. How do you
yeah,
start delegating? Because these are some of the scenarios that they're facing. Nobody will do it right or the way that they want it done. Or another struggle could be like, I would love to delegate and get some tasks off my plate, but I don't know what other people can do or what I should be the one doing. It's just easier if I do it myself, even though it's not easier because they're wearing themselves out, stressing out, getting upset that people aren't contributing and helping and all of that. So, speak to that mom. Where should
yeah.
she begin and kind of offload these things that are literally burdening her?
So this happened to me during COVID. During COVID, I had 3 crazy little monkeys living in my house, and we're like all trapped inside. And I was listening to a podcast, and a woman was talking, a mom was talking, and she basically said, you have to give up the perfectionism. You have to know that having someone else do something, even if it's not the way that you want it done, It's better than you having to do everything. And so you have to start somewhere and you have to allow them to make mistakes because it's the only way they're ever going to learn to get better at doing anything. So you have to be patient with them. Um, but that for me was a turning point. At that point, I realized my Julian, my oldest son, always loved the steam mop, fascinated with it. Guess what, dude? You get to learn how to use the steam mop. Aren't you so excited? And he was pumped, and that was his job. You get to mop the floors. Yay. And the other, I think Gabe at that time, he's like a second grader. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I know you've always wanted to play with the Windex. So you get to clean the windows and mirrors. It's a very important job though, and you can't waste it all." And he's like, "Okay," was running
Yeah.
around, she was a little squirt gun, and even Danny, who was a TK at the time, he got to clean countertops. So it's,
Yeah.
you can give them little jobs. They're not going to do it perfectly. Yes, the mirrors were streaky. Julian did a pretty darn good job with the floors, though. He was in fourth grade when COVID hit. So it's amazing what they can actually do. They're actually quite capable at doing things. And if you make it fun and you make it an adventure and you make it a privilege, it's, you got to change the mindset on it and take the power off of it being a chore and make it more of an experience, more of an adventure, more something
Exactly.
they get to do.
As you were talking about it, I was thinking that, like, I love how you gamified it for them and said, "Hey, I notice that you really love this. And guess what?" Now, like, I love that so much because I do think a lot of the times we're like, this needs to get done. You're going to do it. You have to do it right, or, whatever we define right as being. And
Yeah.
yeah, it
There's
does
so
get
much
to
that
where,
when you really think of it as teamwork and you add your children to your team, because you got to remember, like, they are on your team. You want to run your family, you run your household as though you're all on the same team. We're Team
yeah.
Rickabus. We actually put our hands in and do the Team Rickabus, like we
Oh.
really do, because you want to be in a place where you're cooperating with one another, not competing with one another.
Mhm.
That's a good place to be in. It's a good energy to be in, from a management perspective when you're managing your house.
Mhm. I love that. So, as you were writing the book, or when you started writing the book, what did you hope to share and get across? And then was that the same as what ended up happening?
Yeah, so it started out as the feminist manifesto of the fourth industrial revolution. So I work in IT and I realized the transformational power that AI was going to have on the lives of women. But at the same time, I really realized that women, we're doing all this work, this invisible labor. And if we don't get women into technology, the men really aren't going to know how to automate what we do because it is invisible. So if
Mm,
we are going to solve and automate the tasks that we really could automate in the domestic sphere, it's probably going to have to happen. Women are probably going to have to be the minds behind that. So that was a big one for me. But I also really wanted to impart with women that the things that we're doing within our households are leadership. And if you are able to rise up, never feel like you don't know what you're doing, because if you've run a household, you've had a master class in leadership beyond anything that a man will ever experience. We do so many things. We're so built for multitasking. The average woman knows where 30,000 different objects are in her household,
is
you
that
know,
for real? That's
for real. Yes, we do.
I'm a little overwhelmed that there can be that many things in a household.
Isn't that something? But if somebody asks you where the ketchup is, I bet you know
Yeah,
exactly where it is.
yeah.
Do you?
Well, and that's I can remember instances in the days beyond 2, 3, 4 days ago. Mama, do you know where such and such is? And then it's not just yeah, it's over there. It's on this shelf on the left-hand side, of this an exact location. Could draw a map.
Exactly. And that is a superpower that women have that men don't have. Our brains actually evolutionarily developed. So it must have been so that we could protect our young, our offspring, basically. You didn't want to lose the flint or everyone was going to get eaten by
Mm.
a saber-tooth tiger. I guess is really where it came from, was this evolutionary thing of, knowing where the objects are actually could save our offspring's life. So I think that's, we've evolved to do something that men can't do there. But I look at the leadership and the organization and the management that we do within our homes, and I say, girls, like, you are building culture, you are managing people, you're managing capital, your monthly budget is you managing capital. Don't feel like you don't know finances. You run your house, you know how to do this. You
Mm.
probably know when the gas bill's due, when the electric bill's due, you paid the water bill, you got the insurance paid. We manage things. So my friend who I interviewed on my podcast, the manager, her name is Netta Lena, and she says that when a man applies for a job, he knows he is about 65% qualified to do the job. When a woman applies for a job, she is 100% qualified for the job. And I feel like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Men always feel overqualified to do what they're doing, and we always feel underqualified. And I really want us to feel fully qualified when we go and do something. You 100% can do this. It's built into us in such a way, in a biological way, that we have we're so good at multitasking. We're so good at delegating. We're so good at inventory. We're so good at culture building. We've got very high EQ. Our emotional intelligence is so high because it has to be. We work with nonverbal people for like years of their life. What does the baby want? Oh, you don't understand that cry means he's hungry. Obviously, he's got a wet diaper. That's a whole different cry. You know, our EQ is through the roof because it has to be. Our
Mm.
job being mothers have tuned us to be our to have superpowers, and the EQ and the inventory management and the multitasking alone are just things that we biologically superior at. And, I feel like the dads that are stay-at-home dads, I love them. Good job. Thanks for supporting your women. But I sometimes see how overwhelmed they are because it's a lot of moving parts all the time. Everything from milk to toilet paper to dinner to soccer practice to ballet to tutoring to homework to carpools and pickups, to when is the housekeeper coming? Is the pool clean? When is the grass getting mowed? Have the lights been changed? So as the time changes for the exterior lights, there is so much that goes into running a home that no one thinks about, that just kind of, it's like a magic fairy handles everything. But it's not magic fairies. It's
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you think that it was the realization in that class of everything she's talking about for business, we are already managing in our homes? Do you think that was the realization for you, or had you already consciously or subconsciously been implementing business principles into motherhood or motherhood principles into bettering your businesses?
I'd say both. And also, I was seeing a therapist at the time, and she said, I want you to write down everything you do in your household, and I want your husband to write down everything he does in your household. And I thought to myself, I don't know if I can write everything I do down. Like, that would be there's so much that we do that I don't
Mhm.
even know if we've actually, like, brought it up to the conscious mind. There's so much stuff that you're just doing subconsciously in your house. It almost seems like more of a task to even say what the task is. So it was that, and then, of course, having a toddler and having an employee. When I was in my 20s, I had the hardest time saying no to people. After I became a mom, it got so much easier for me to say no, because you say no like 1,000 times a day when you have a toddler, like, no, no, ole, no, no, and when your employee's like, hey, I really just, I know I just had a raise, but I really want another one. And you're like, oh, no, you know? No. So it gets easier. I think there's certain things that, they're very complementary. Running, motherhood and business are so complementary. There's so many ways that being a mom's going to make you a better manager, a better leader in business. And then there's so many ways that being a leader in business also makes you a better mother, because you can
Mm,
take some of those systems, that systems mentality that we learn in business, and apply that back in your house. But I'm not sure what came first, the chicken or the egg on that.
sure,
Honestly, I don't know.
sure.
Yeah.
Have you noticed your kids implementing things differently from their peers because of how they see you model in your business and at home?
I think, well, my kids are all homeschooled.
Oh, we
So
didn't talk about that.
yeah, they are. So I have I have four that are in school right now, four that are being homeschooled. So 16 to 4 are being homeschooled. And my kids are different. They're very different, because they can be, they
Mm,
are not, they're definitely different than their peer group. I see the way that they look at the world. It's a little more adulty,
yeah,
the way they interface with adults is a little bit more adult than their peer group.
yeah,
So they actually have a hard time being with children their own age a lot of the time, because they're so immature. Their
yeah.
EQs and their communication skills are so much lower. Especially my 11-year-old. He's like, "Whoa," when he hangs out with other 11-year-olds, he's like, "Oh, mom," he really feels more comfortable with 13, 14-year-olds. And then my 13-year-old, he'll be 14. His friends are all like 16. So
Wow.
yeah, it's
Okay, so
interesting.
I had forgot. I think I read on your bio that you homeschooled, but I forgot that little factoid. So, what led you? I'm a homeschool mom too, by
Oh,
the
no
way.
way.
Yes.
Yay.
So, what led you to that decision, which just totally intensifies the level of everything else you had going on too, with birthing the businesses and more kids? And oh, by the way, we homeschool as well. What was that?
So in 2020, the world shut down for COVID,
Yes.
and my oldest two sons are both dyslexic. And the Zoom school
Mm,
thing just wasn't working for us. And my oldest also has like sensory processing. So wearing a face mask was just not going to work for him. And we're in California where we just let COVID go on and on. I mean, COVID went on for like 2.5 years here. It
yeah.
was a long time. And so instead of putting up with all of that, I just couldn't. I actually got together with some other moms in my neighborhood, and I put together a homeschool pod. And I reached out to some friends that were teachers, and I found a teacher who had just been let go of a charter school. And I turned our bonus room, which was the place where toys go to die, into a classroom. Uh, yeah, so I bought desks and chairs, and I found curriculum. I liked the good and the beautiful. It's just such a complete curriculum. So we just, decided to go with that curriculum. I actually wrote our history curriculum because I have a degree in art history, and I wanted to do something that was a little more elevated. I mean, you can only do so much world history. It gets so
Sure.
boring. So I wanted to do something a little more fun. So I actually wrote a history curriculum for the kids that semester, that for multiple semesters, but one semester we did ancient history and we studied Pompeii. And it was just so fun because the companies were it was pretty quiet at that time. We at that time, Mohawk was doing a lot of work, but Brendan was able to kind of manage that. We were doing a lot of there was no goods coming in from China at that. So basically everything was shut down. So we were
Mhm.
helping big companies find parts that were here in the US to basically critical infrastructure stuff, which was fun, but also, pretty chill. And then Tomahawk was sort of in a cocoon. It had gone into a cocoon at that time. We were going into the commercial space. We'd hired a VP, and he was just studying emerging technologies. So it was pretty quiet, like at that time. He was doing his work, he was studying the emerging technologies. So I could be home and be pregnant with Indy, barefoot pregnant, cooking dinner, printing up the menus every day, and then running this pod out of my house. We had 9 kids, and it was kind of a very idyllic time in my life. It was Foursquare in the cul-de-sac, or set up the pickleball court in the cul-de-sac, and it was the kids in the pool, and it was having 9 kids for lunch 5 days a week, and it was So cool. It was so awesome. So homeschool kind of came out of necessity, and I'd always wanted to homeschool, but my husband was very against it. And then after we started homeschooling, we just never went back because the kids were so happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's phenomenal. But also, Amy, it leads me to this next question, a very important question. When do you sleep?
Oh, like from 10:15 to 7, 10:15 PM to 7 AM, like kind of uncompromisingly. I love sleep. Like I really do need to sleep. So I have to prioritize my time during the day, but at night I really do need my beauty sleep. If my head isn't on the pillow by 10:30, I'm very anxious. Like I'm kind of
Mm,
freaking out. And I'm so lucky that I have such good sleepers too. I had my our swim teacher was over this morning doing swim lessons for the littles, and her son is not a good sleeper. So she's
mm,
exhausted because he's 2 and he's going to bed at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, my littles are in bed by like 7:15.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oof.
and they sleep till, like, 7 o'clock in the morning, so at least 6:45,
Yeah.
because I for me, it's like, "Oh my gosh, if I can sleep till 7 o'clock in the morning, like, 7 days a week, I'm in heaven, that's good." But I love sleep schedules, and I know that it's so important for our biological functions too, because our epigenetics, there are systems that run only when we're sleeping, and there are systems that run only in the certain times of the night too, so actually sleeping earlier in the night is you're able to run more detoxing protocols in your body between like 10 and midnight. So
Mhm.
if you're missing out on those hours of sleep, you're missing out on your body being able to do a lot of regeneration and healing too. So
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
that stuff.
It's super
Science is
critical. Well,
fun.
I'm glad to know that you do sleep because you're accomplishing a ton of stuff. And I love that sleep is still a priority. So good on you for that.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to tell my audience more about your book, where they can find it, more about how to find you and connect with you, your podcast, website, all of the things. And
Okay.
then after you share all of that information, which by the way, listeners, as always, linked in the show notes, what are your parting words of encouragement for the mom who just who loves the idea of systems and management of her household, of her work, of her career, all of the things in this umbrella overarching connection? How would you encourage that mom to just keep forging ahead and to make it work better for her?
Okay. So you can find the book, The Manage Her, on Amazon. And we have themanageher.com as our website. You can find us on social. We are at The Manage Her and at Aimee, Aimee Rickabus, Rickabus, on Instagram. We're The Manage Her on TikTok. And I'm on LinkedIn, Aimee Holguin Rickabus. So it's Aimee, Aimee, Holguin, Holguin, Rickabus, Rickabus. And you can, yeah, so we're available there everywhere. I'm putting together a conference also for the manager, which will be in March of
Oh, wow.
2026. And we'll do an annual conference where women who are looking to, level up in leadership can come and connect with each other and hear, inspiring panelists and go to educational breakout sessions where they can learn everything from like finance to better management skills to intellectual property to all of the different aspects of business that women could use to tax strategies, all kinds of things where we can share knowledge with each other on how to level up. So go to the website for that. We'll have more info on there. And to all of you mamas out there, I see you. I know what you guys are capable of. I believe in you guys. I need you guys to level up with me. Come join us in this amazing world of delegating and trusting in your ability to manage. I know you can do this. Try one little thing. So one little thing for me, the one thing that I love to start my kids out on is make your bed. Teach your 4 or 5-year-old how to make their bed. Indy can make her bed. She's not even 5 yet. She likes making her bed. And it's one little thing, it's one less thing that you have to do in your day. If your kids can start with one little thing and just do one little thing at a time, don't take on everything at once. Just try one thing and then try to make sure that you're reinforcing that one thing. That would be where I would start with the management of creating some systems to get your kids to help you out. But I think it's important that they know that they're on your team with you. Whatever your last name is, that's your team. So you guys are going to start a team shout. Okay. We start with like, we're Team Rickabus. Put our hands in, and everybody can go and do their little bit of work, right? And make it
Mm.
fun. Keep it fun. Use your emotional IQ, your EQ to make it a game, make it play, and then make it rewards too. Don't forget, like kids love lollipops, and they don't always have to have sugar in them either. Some little treat, stickers, anything like that. A
Yeah.
little board that you can put a smiley face on next to their name. Think of what teachers do. Reward systems work really well to make sure that we're reinforcing good behavior in the house. So that's where I would start.
I
And read the
love
book,
that
it's in there
answer.
too.
Yes, yes. So, again, listeners, all of these links, including Aimee's book, podcast, all of the things are in the show notes. Be sure to check that out. Aimee, thank you once again for being a guest on the Motherhood Experience.
Thank you so much for having me, Val. I had a great time.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. To join our exclusive TME community, head over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Be sure to follow the Motherhood Experience on Facebook or Instagram, and please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, and we'll catch you next time.